People do seem to have been rated by the quality of their bookcases and the books behind them, don't they?
Yeah, I've moved away from my bookcase because I got so much stick from it. So.
It's the one that arranges that they arrange their book covers in sort of a rainbow type order, and you think, oh, these people have definitely got too much time on their hands.
First 2 weeks, I'm just under 350.
So we just wait another minute for everyone to join, and then we'll kick off.
Hi, Louise.
Hi, Joe.
Good morning.
Hi.
Morning, Gani.
Morning, David. Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning, David.
Good morning, Kathy. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Amazingly well.
Wonderful.
The summer seems to have returned to Henley-on-Thames, which is.
I know. I've just done a 2.5-hour walk, so
Wow.
Okay.
it's gorgeous out there. I look a bit dishevelled now.
Okay, so I think it's just gone 9:30, so let's kick off. So for those of you that haven't joined us before, a very warm welcome to the Business Owners Forum. So what it is a forum clearly for business owners. It happens every 2 weeks on a Friday morning, and it lasts for 45 minutes. And what it is an opportunity for learning, because in business, the more you learn, the faster your business grows. In fact, a friend of mine, Brad Sugars, says the more you learn, the more you earn. And you know what? I think that's absolutely true. But it's also a great opportunity for networking. So it's a good opportunity to meet other business owners. And in fact, I know that a number of you who've met on the Business Owners Forum are actually doing business together now. So, please interact with each other. We do have a Facebook group now as well, so go ahead, join the Facebook group, and we do record these, and all of these are available on the Facebook group too. So jump onto that. We're also lucky to have other coaches on the call today from the Henley Coaching Partnership. So let's get them to say hello. Chris, good morning.
Good morning, David. Good morning, everybody.
Joe Bentley, are you there?
I'm here. Good morning, everyone.
And Nigel Nelms. Nigel, you're muted. You're still muted. Okay. Well, now if you hear anything on here that you want to follow up on or have a chat with a coach, they're available on either David, Joe, Chris, or Nigel at the henleycoachingpartnership.com. So if you want to follow up on anything you hear today, just drop us an email and we can jump on a call with you guys. Now, a few rules for the forum. First of all, could you please keep yourself on mute while other people are talking? Because although we love your children and we love your dogs and we love your cats and we love the Amazon man, it's very distracting for other people.
I don't.
Please keep yourself on mute. Also, there's going to be a big opportunity to ask questions. So we're going to be doing an interview with Toddington Harper in a moment. And after that, there'll be an opportunity for about 10 or 15 minutes for you to ask him questions. So at that point in time, just put your hands up, make yourself available, and I'll unmute you, or you can unmute yourself and ask a question. There's also a chat button at the bottom of your screen. So that's a really good opportunity as well to put your contact details on there, or if you've got anything that other people might really benefit from hearing, just pop it on there and other people can see it as we go along. So today we've changed the format a little bit, and this is the first in a series of what we call business leaders interviews. And obviously, I think one of the best ways to learn as a business owner is listen to the real experiences of other business owners. It's a great way to learn. And as we go on through the Business Owners Forum, which has now been going for a couple of months, we will add different formats to keep it interesting, because we do realize that different people learn in different ways. So we'll do a number of learning sessions and interviews, and a number of different sessions to keep it really varied. So today we're really lucky to have Toddington Harper with us. So Toddington Harper is the Chief Exec of Gridserve. Now, I've known Toddington for, well, it must be nearly 3 years now, Toddington, actually. And I describe him as an entrepreneurial, high energy, high growth business leader who's growing his business at a fair old pace. But not only that, I describe him also as a leader in his industry, not only in terms of thought leadership, but also technology leadership as well. So Toddington, thank you so much for joining us today. So say hello to everyone, Toddington.
Hi, great to be here. Hopefully you can hear me all. Is it working?
Yes, perfectly right.
That's how you have to start a Zoom meeting. Is it working? Can you hear me? Customary introduction.
Yeah.
Wow, lots of people.
Great. Yeah, we can hear you and see you fantastically, Toddington. So,
Right.
Great. So I'm going to ask you a few questions if that's okay for the next 20 minutes, Toddington. Is that all right?
Sure.
Cool. So let me start by asking you when you started your company, but also why you started it and what you hope to achieve when you set it up.
Right. Okay. So I started it on the back of the kind of end of the subsidy era of renewable energy. So imagine, I don't know if any of you guys have been involved in renewable energy projects, but a few years ago, the government used to pay you a subsidy for every unit of energy that you generated from a solar project, because the economics of those projects didn't work by themselves. And on the back of that, myself and others built fairly substantial companies. We installed, apologies if you don't like solar panels in fields, but I installed around 1,000 acres of solar panels in fields. And did some quite cool things, though, turned them into nature sanctuaries and so on. But the economics didn't really work because the projects were too expensive, so the government subsidized it. That meant that the cost was brought down to a point where we didn't need subsidies anymore, and the government canned it all. And they canned the subsidies very, very quickly, unfortunately, which brought down many companies. But I was in a good position that I'd managed to sell my business. I sold it to Energy, RWE, that big utility company, which was quite fortunate. So I had an option of, what do I do? Do I take the money and disappear and do nothing? I'm not very good at that. Or do I basically go all in and basically reinvest everything I'd just earned into a new business that was designed to work without subsidies? And that was in December 2016 that we finally sold, and really started in January 2017. And so the objective was to help deliver sustainable energy, really, to the world, to the planet. We kind of need it. And really some of the reasons behind that is that we've got, I'm sure we all know this, but there's some incredibly, enormous challenges facing the world. We're at the point of moving emissions beyond 1.5 degrees of warming. And we've also wiped out 60% of the world's wildlife in the last 40 years. So pretty horrendous, really. So I was creating a business to see what I could do about that, in summary. Is that a good answer, David? That's about what
Thank you. And tell us a little bit, Toddington, what Gridserve looks like today, the sort of projects you're doing, how big they are, what they do for us.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see my screen. I did send you a couple of slides, David. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, just click share screen and stick the slides on the screen. That's fine.
Okay, so I'll give you an example. Hopefully you can see that.
Yeah, that's great.
You see that? So so what we're doing as Gridserve is we're developing, we're building, we're operating, we're owning sustainable energy solutions for what we call critical power infrastructure. So this is like the world beyond subsidies, where the projects aren't built because somebody's subsidizing it to make up the balance of value. Rather, the projects themselves are a lot more useful, and so you don't need a third-party subsidy. So we had to completely redesign and rethink how we build these projects. So it includes everything from, I'll come to it, from sun to wheel is our focus. So, you know, sun, this is the equivalent of how we look of an oil well, but a modern version of it. In fact, people don't really think about it, but the energy in oil is actually stored sunlight from, you know, dinosaur land, you know, 300 odd million years ago. So here we are harvesting solar energy. This is a project we built last year. We built it in 5 months. We incorporated new technologies. So there's, it says somewhere, doesn't it? Over 90,000 solar panels on trackers that follow the sun from east to west throughout the course of the day. We also have bifacial panels that absorb energy on both sides of the panels. And we've got large batteries. So the containers, the shipping containers you can see there, the 40-foot containers contain 30 megawatt hours of lithium-ion energy storage. That's 11 40-foot containers full of lithium-ion batteries, the similar sort of batteries you get in your laptop. And the combination of all of that means we have built a project which is probably, well, it's definitely the most advanced that's ever really been built in the UK, but more or less anywhere. And it doesn't add to the grid's challenges. Rather, it helps solve grid problems. Yeah, and amazingly, it's just working incredibly well. That's kind of part of the jigsaw. And then what we do is, as I was saying, the next piece of the jigsaw is to turn the whole site, it's over 200 acres, around 200 acres, into a nature sanctuary to help protect species. You know, bees and pollinators and other animals that are going extinct, which unfortunately are going extinct at a huge rate. The other piece of the jigsaw is we're building this, which is a new network of charging stations to charge electric vehicles. We're trying to change the bar. So electric vehicles, I'd love to say a poll. In fact, I would love to in a second, if anyone of you guys have got them or are considering them. You know, one of the challenges about electric vehicles is charging them isn't straightforward. It's difficult. There's a lot of anxiety associated with it, and we're looking to turn that on its head by building a new network of these. We call them electric forecourts. This is an image, but it's actually real. So this project is about 50% complete. In fact, that canopy, I've got a picture I haven't showed David yet. That is more or less in already, and it should be going live in October. And what we do is on the one hand, we generate the energy from solar, and then on the other hand, we build this infrastructure. And some of the solar farms directly connect to provide energy directly, and some of them we have to push the energy into the grid in one location and pull it out in another location, and put some, you know, quite complicated contracts in place to do that. But that's essentially what we're doing. We also have a small version of all of the above, like a much smaller version, which is like we call it a solar energy center, but essentially it's like a grid in a box, where all of this technology is miniaturized into a single sort of shipping container size. You can drop it anywhere in the world, and it can provide you, you know, power and charging, and it can power really the most difficult applications without requirement for any grid. So that's what we're doing.
Wow, that's just amazing. Toddington, give us an idea about how much electricity your York solar farm can generate on a sunny day in York.
Yeah, well, it's really been blowing our mind. So up until doing this, it was quite difficult because no one had ever done all of this stuff before. No one had really built large projects without subsidies. No one had tried all these additional technologies, and we were trying to put them all in at the same time. And so we had to take a lot of theory, and we had to do an awful lot of work to get people to believe that this project would do what we thought it would do. And that was quite a punt, given that the two projects we got over the line was over £60 million of capex, so we had to do some serious persuading. But fortunately, the project is actually doing more than we thought it was going to. So, as an idea, on the sunniest day so far this year, this project has produced over 350 megawatt hours of energy on a particular day. And to put that in perspective, you can drive, if you put a kilowatt hour into an electric vehicle, you can drive around 4 miles. So if you put that all together, it means you could drive 57 electric vehicles the entire way around the planet in from the energy that we made in one day on the busiest day. So we're really quite amazed how much energy it is producing and how well it's working. And I think it gives us confidence that actually we can make it work. You know, we can get to net zero carbon emissions within 30 years, which is there's, again, for people who are maybe not fully aware, there is a law called the Climate Change Act, which basically says that we need to get to eradicate emissions to literally net zero within 30 years, and probably petrol, diesel and hybrid cars are going to be banned in 15 years. So all the other legislation that's now being created is meant to be connected to that. So it's really quite difficult, but when you see stuff like this working, you think, actually, I guess it is possible.
So you told me, I think a couple of weeks ago, Toddington, that in one day you could generate enough electricity to send an electric car round the planet for what, 50 times or something like that. Isn't that just incredible?
Yes, I don't know if you heard what I said, but we've produced enough energy to drive 57 cars around the world in one day.
Unbelievable.
That's our record. When we got to 30 cars around the world, I thought that was just incredible. We're never going to beat that. But we did 57 the other day, which is remarkable. Awesome. It was a Sunday as well.
Now, Toddington, the company is not that old, right? But you know, you're already up to, you know, more than £50 million worth of revenue in the last financial year. And I guess people listening in might have thought this was really straightforward. But being quite close to the company, I know you've had some challenges and overcome them. Do you want to just maybe share a few of the challenges you've had to overcome to get to the position you're at today?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be fair to say that every day is pretty much an adventure. I mean, it sounds like everybody on the call is business owners or, you know, running businesses or part of it. And I would concur to that it is, you know, it's very much like that for us. You know, we're really pushing hard to make stuff happen. Unfortunately, there's something called the global carbon budget, which the IPCC, so that's the world's greatest, you know, leading scientists from across the world that, you know, form part of the UN, have filed a report and said that we are going to breach the carbon budget that would maintain emissions at 1.5 degrees, and we're going to breach that within seven and a half years from now, which is just horrendous. Or 2 degrees is 25 years from now. And you probably heard the Paris Agreement is designed to keep emissions within you know, 2 degrees, but we're way over all of that. So I guess I highlight that because that's what drives us, because we just haven't really got much time. And on the back of that, we're doing everything we can just to really get this stuff over the line, because it's our watch, you know, it's our watch collectively today. Nobody else has the option. So as a result of creating, having a desire to get so much stuff done, we create, I would say, rather a lot of challenges for us along the way. You know, constantly, you know, we hit a hurdle, and then, you know, the projects get bigger, the financing challenges get more complicated, the delivery of the projects gets more difficult. But you know, we you know, some days are fantastic, you know, high five, and like everybody, I'm sure some days are just like, oh my goodness, how on earth are we going to deal with this? But that just seems that's what's running a business like, as far as at least as far as I know, anyway. But we do appear to be on the front foot at the moment.
Yeah, I think when you're breaking the grounds of new technology, you just find so many problems. I remember at York, Alan, the operations director, well, I think we had 30 days to finish it, to meet our contract, and he sent me a photo. And do you remember the floods that happened? And the whole place was under 2 meters of water. And this is, you know, electricity site, right? So water, electricity don't go very well. So that's just a typical problem that I think you guys have faced and overcome, which was incredible.
Yeah, we had 2 floods. So heard about the Yorkshire floods last year. So they came in, they basically wiped out all of the roads that we'd put in, internal roads, to be able to build the site. And floods came in and wiped it all out. And then we had to wait till they went. And we put new roads in, and then it happened again, and they wiped it all out, and they came again. So fortunately not on the site I've just shown you. It was on the other one, which was meant to be completed around the same time. We were building two at the same time, roughly the same size. The second one's a bit smaller. But yeah, it was extremely challenging. Fortunately, we got an insurance payout for the second one. So again, I would really encourage everybody to look at insurance. It's helped us enormously. On the one hand, it often seems like a kind of a pesky overhead that one has to deal with, and just a big cost. But when you really need it, like we did, it was extremely helpful.
Can I ask you about the people side of things, Toddington? Because when we first met, I think it was a team of, I think everyone was in the same room. There's 4 or 5 of you, and now you're up to, well, over 40, right?
We are now 55 people.
55 people.
Mm.
So tell me about the culture that you've built in the company to achieve this rapid growth in both scale and technology.
Yeah, sure. So this is business number 5 for me. So I've they're all in the same space, sustainable energy, all pushing in the same direction. But when I started, I was 22 and I really didn't know what I was doing. And over a number of businesses, I seem to have got better at this, and learned a huge amount along the way. And I guess one of the biggest lessons learned is to both only recruit the very, very best people in your team, and also put a very strong set of values around who you bring in as a business and what you stand for as a company. So we have this bar in our kind of HR. I wrote it on the lady's whiteboard in permanent marker, a bar which just says the minimum bar is great, which is that I've kind of noticed if you recruit people who aren't very good, then just a headache. If you recruit people, on the other hand, who are good, it's not great either, because you often find good people often need a lot of management and managing and time and make mistakes and things, which is kind of only human, but it's quite challenging when you're trying to move quite fast and get a lot done. Then this sort of next level up is great, and that's where we've kind of put our minimum bar, because if you recruit great people, they make very few mistakes. In fact, they solve mistakes. They come to you with very few problems. They come to you generally with solutions, and they just take load off your back. Actually, what I'm aiming for is awesome. So there's like another level on top.
And how do you do that, Toddington?
How? So I didn't see you ask the question.
Luca, how do you recruit only great?
Yeah, I mean, how do you do it? It's a very good question. So for me, some of the best people I had, I guess, I don't know as a general question, but how I managed to do it, a lot of it is I've met these people along the journey. So I've been, some of the best people that we had when I was running, various companies. I was up against a lawyer, for example, that was just infinitely better than the lawyer I had on my team. Or I was up against a commercial team who was better, or a site looked tidier, or a site looked neater, or I just spotted, people who were just phenomenally better and the best, and noted down how brilliant they were. And then, when the time is right, and it's not a good idea, you obviously you can't poach people from your partners. That's really bad ethics, I would say. But it was good fortune for us that the industry sort of stopped, and I was able to go back to the people that I've been noting down over the years as the very best, and trying to get them to join us. Because we were, quite an exciting mission and plan and a good track record, I think it's fair to say now, the people were quite excited. So we had the credibility. So only good people will generally come, or great and awesome people will come to people who've got credibility, I would say. For sure, people had to take a bit of a leap of faith. But yeah, it was really awesome, great people who typically are already found working in other companies, or, and so, you just have to, I think, build the right relationships and find the very, very best, reasons to persuade people to come across and work with you. I think also to put it in their favor. So we put an EMI share option scheme in place so that everyone gets to benefit, because that way people don't, I don't think of it as my company, although I'm clearly a large shareholder, but everybody has the option to have shares in the business. so everybody can benefit. We're also planning to IPO. We've got, you know, a lot of pieces, and then there's the whole value set. There's 8 values that we really ascribe to, that are important. You know, things like being positive, you know, positively charged, solutions focused people. You know, like one negative person, you get one negative person in the ranks and your whole business can just become, ugh, like, you know, they sort of say like a rotten egg, and just can't have that. You've got to be really quite strict about not allowing in and moving quite quickly if there's any negativity that comes in. I mean, obviously you need realism as well. That's really helpful. You want really amazing people who are realistic, but just having people who just think the glass is permanently empty is, you just can't have them around you, because they just pull it all down. So I think it's a combination of building, and also it's difficult to build as a really strong, positive, solutions focused, open, transparent culture when you do have some negative people in as well. So it's about creating the right culture, at least we found, attracting the right people, you know, making it worth their while to come across, being open, transparent. And again, for me, just making note of who you meet along the journey, and see, you know, when the time is right, if they might be interested in joining. That's how it's worked for us.
That's great. So Toddington, has COVID-19 slowed you down at all, or not?
Oh,
how have you coped with COVID-19?
Well, the first sort of bit, the first transition was, the actual transition to working from home was quite remarkable. It was really quite straightforward. And that's because we transitioned a whole business to Microsoft 365 and Office 365, which is just brilliant. Doesn't really matter where you are. And there's a big difference between Office 365 and Microsoft 365, I would say. Microsoft 365 gives you full business control, whereas Office is just the computer programs. So I'd recommend anyone to look into that. So that bit was quite straightforward. You know, obviously, I mean, COVID, crikey, it stopped everybody in our tracks. I think we had to try and, you learned who your partners were. You know, I asked our partners to help us, and you know, to slow down contracts, to delay, to, you know, because we're building all these projects and they cost obviously a lot of money, and we had to stop everything, and that's difficult. And yeah, you learn really fast who are your partners, you know, because the vast majority of people we work with, they went, yeah, okay, get it, we're all in this together, let's help each other out. And there was a few people who just said, no, this is my contract and that's what it is, and I don't work with them anymore. So you know, I think it was quite, you know, in a way it gave us, because we are a bit nutty and we just run so fast, it was quite useful for us to have some reflection, to really rethink and so on. We also have a phenomenal partner in Hitachi Capital that we managed to get to support us as a funder, who came in and they funded us through this difficult time. And again, you know, it took us a long time to find Hitachi Capital, but that was really, really helpful. So actually, you know, there's always got to be a silver lining. I mean, you can't, you know, you don't want to sort of profit from a situation like this, which is obviously horrendous, but at the same time, life, you know, for us at least, you know, goes on. And the silver lining from COVID for me, I think, is that I think that it's given people the belief, certainly given me the belief, that if something needs to be done, you know, however big a challenge it is, if there's enough will in the world, it can be done, and it can be done very quickly.
Absolutely.
It didn't really feel like that before. It didn't feel that you could turn this, you know, the world basically of what we do. You get up and you go to work and you do this and you do that, and you know, it's just the machinery. So, you know, I'm personally more optimistic post, you know, where we are with COVID than I was before. I've seen how quickly things can happen, and actually there's bigger projects now that we're working on that we weren't working on because we had the time to reconsider and replan and look at what we're doing, plus other people weren't able to deliver them either. So, you know, it is what it is. I mean, last year we built those projects in a Brexit year. Everyone said that wasn't possible. And again, one of my lessons from the years ago when they were cutting subsidies, I spent so much time fighting this cut, all this effort. Oh, don't cut the subsidies too quick, too soon. And they cut them anyway. And I left myself going, well, well, it's done now, and I've wasted all my effort fighting something. So this time around, when Brexit was happening last year and similar this year, as opposed to spending all of your time thinking, oh, Brexit, what's going to happen? What's this? What's that? Or, you know, COVID is the end of the world. Is it happening? Is it not? And instead, we're like, right, I've done this before. I'm just going to spend all of the time getting on with stuff, cracking on with it, and trying to make the best of it, because we're all in this together. None of us, COVID is upon all of us, and how do we come out the other end of it in the strongest possible position? So that's what we've tried to do.
It's a great attitude. Just control the controllables and get on with it. So last question, Toddington, because you worked very hard for us, so thank you. We'd love to have you back in a year from now to see how your company has progressed. So where do you think you'll be in a year from now, Toddington? What do you think your world will look like?
Wow. I mean, it's such an interesting question. Yeah, I mean, hopefully we will have, we're building this electric forecourt, the one I showed you in that picture, and that will hopefully be operational in October. And hopefully in a year's time, I would say it all works brilliantly, all the things that we said, because actually compared to a solar farm, which is a hybrid solar farm, which is already quite complicated, electric forecourts are wildly complicated. In fact, one of the biggest challenges that we had was a few years ago when I was trying to get this stuff done. People just didn't believe. It was very difficult to convince people that the electric vehicle kind of world was coming. So I built a business case based on lots of other revenue models like coffee and supermarkets on site and all sorts of other different pieces. Fortunately, people do believe electric vehicles are coming now, and I do hope in a year's time there's going to be vast amount more people in them. So I didn't ask that. Does anyone have an electric car? At least I can see in the photo. And is anyone planning on getting one? Would anyone be getting one as their next car or considering it?
Definitely. Put it in the chat box. If you're going to buy an electric car as your next car, put it in the chat box and just say yes. Yeah.
Or if not, why not? That would be useful to know too. Because this is what we're trying to work out. Like, okay, so how do we turn it around? So, I mean, hopefully all of these other revenue streams will have worked. Hopefully the project will have made money such that we've continued to develop it and build others. Hopefully we've made a noticeable difference, a meaningful impact that around each of these sites we've managed to, convert much more people into using electric vehicles than otherwise would have been the case. Hopefully we'll have built, developed a bigger pipeline of a lot more and built and secured, a lot more hybrid solar projects and also got the nature sanctuary network moving as well, and probably also at that point be looking to expand into other territories, and made some progress there, and maybe also some more progress towards an IPO. So clearly not a lot to do, David.
Yeah, you're gonna be a busy man. And in the last year you've grown your family as well a little bit, Toddington, as well. No, so it hasn't just been busy on the business side. Yeah. It's it. So I've got three very little girls, 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 5-year-old, and we have another little child arriving within a month at home. So that's going to be pretty epic. And, so you're a growth-orientated chap, Toddington. got to be all in, got to give it a go. We only have one chance at this world. You might as well make your mark. Fantastic. Are you happy to stay for another 10 minutes and take some questions from people? Yeah, sure. Why not? Fantastic. So, Sarah, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
Hi. Hello, Toddington. Thank you. I run a business travel management company, which is not particularly climate friendly, of course, but the industry and certainly my clients are very, very interested in the sustainability and climate care issue. And I did a project recently where I was trying to be able to, so I work mainly with SMEs, trying to offset their individual small carbon footprint managed by my company into a carbon offsetting company. And we just came up with so many obstacles. It was so difficult to do. Does your organization have any offsetting scheme, or could you develop that plan, or would that be something you might be interested in?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. So a few years ago, I built a company called Low Carbon Economy, where we were trying to work out how you get to a low carbon economy, sort of almost exempt now because now we need to get to a zero carbon economy. But we created something called the priority pyramid, which is, what's the most important stuff that you do. The most important stuff is the stuff that gives you the greatest amount of change with the least amount of cost and effort. So, you start off at the very top of the priority pyramid and you do things like you turn the lights off when you leave a room. That's very useful. The next level down, you would, use more efficient devices, more efficient light bulbs, more efficient, energy usage of whatever you do in every way you do it. The kind of next level down would be to generate your energy cleanly from renewable energy, which is what we're doing. And then if there's carbon emissions above and beyond all of that, and you can't just do anything else about it, then you would offset, so invest in a project that would reduce emissions that otherwise wouldn't happen. So you've got to be careful when you do invest in a carbon offsetting project that there's additionality. So you're not just putting money into something which would happen anyway, but actually something new would happen that would reduce carbon that wouldn't have otherwise happened. And it's quite a minefield. There's quite a lot of rogues in this space.
Yeah, that's what we found.
It's really difficult to work it out. I would probably say, if you really want to do the cleanest way, try to work out how to plant some trees.
That was the one option that we came up with, actually, with the Woodland Trust as a partnership, but they've run out of land.
What?
How can that be true?
They've run out of land, so they turned us down.
That's enormous. That's incredible. So there's definitely other people that haven't run out of land. So, yeah, wow, I never heard that.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredibly difficult to actually offset carbon footprint meaningfully. As you say, there's an awful lot of schemes that you can very, very easily just click on, and you don't know where that money's going to some sort of possibly obscure project somewhere, and you don't know how much money goes, and you don't get any certification for it. But for the SME world, it's quite a challenge. If you're a very large corporate, you've probably got a director of responsibility program and so forth. But for the SME world, it is a real challenge.
I mean, I would recommend coming at it from the priority pyramid perspective, just working out how you can minimize your energy use, because minimizing energy use is much better than offsetting something which could have been minimized in the first place. Then having a look at, what you can do in the context of clean energy, getting your energy from renewable source if you haven't already, electric vehicles if you can, and then if you can try and, above and beyond that, quantify what your carbon emissions still are, try to work out how you can do something really tangibly, like plant additional trees that you just know would happen. There's got to be other organizations out there that would help. And even if there aren't, gosh.
So conscious of time, Toddington, I just wanted to give other people an opportunity to ask some questions as well. Chris Baker. Chris.
Yeah, hi Toddington, thanks for that. Very interesting. I've got two questions. One's a selfish one, and the other one is because I've been in software all my life and I've been used to being commoditized on occasion. So the first question is, as a three-car family, do you think it's viable for us to have our own little forecourt that doesn't require us plugging it into the grid? Because if any of you have got an electric car and you plug it into your household supply, the electricity meter goes into hyperdrive, and I'd much rather have a solar-powered battery that charges the cars. Is that viable? And that links to the second question, which is, are Tesla ultimately going to commoditize this kind of technology and force the price so low that might be a challenge for you?
Wow. So solar in your home, definitely possible. Solar batteries, definitely possible. It depends what you're doing it for. Pure economics, it's not the cheapest way to do it. You can achieve a similar sort of result of buying renewable energy from somebody and putting that energy into an electric vehicle It's not as awesome, you know, it's not as cool as doing it yourself, but it would be a lot cheaper. But there for sure are solutions out there that, particularly, actually Tesla has them. They have a solution called a Powerwall, which is a very cool battery that allows you to do that. So you absolutely can do it. It's actually a much better way, because if you, a kilowatt, okay, so the equivalent value of using that yourself is the difference between 15 pence of what you would get in a, is what your energy price would, you know, roughly costs at home, or generally electricity costs at home. Whereas if you use the equivalent in a vehicle, it would be 60 pence. So there's quite a big saving using that energy yourself.
Yeah, my motivation is probably about being carbon neutral as a household, which is quite tough because I'm a triple gold on BA. So, you know, actually Sarah's comment's quite a good one. You know, how on earth can I cope with that overhead as well? But if I can start with the home,
you can definitely. I mean, I don't know what your roof is like. Definitely, you know, look to put solar panels all over your roof is a good idea if you can. Not just on your south-facing roof, but also on the east and the west, because that means you can generate energy more evenly throughout the day as well, depending on where the sun is. So you absolutely can. Are Tesla going to commoditize? Tesla is an awesome company. You know, their actual mission is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. Our mission is to deliver sustainable energy and move the needle on climate change. We're both fully aligned around, you know, together. The cheaper we can make it for everybody, the better. And that we're, you know, if Tesla can make it cheaper, absolutely over the moon. You know, that's what he's just trying to do. You know, that is the fundamental mission that's behind all of it. And so we don't really see it, Tesla, as a competitor. In fact, we have you know, we're going to have Tesla chargers in our forecourts as well. So, you know, they're an amazing company.
Yeah, that's the challenge, because there's different standards emerging. So, you know, I've just ordered the Ford Mach-E, which is delayed, unfortunately, to Q1 because it's got nearly a 400-mile range. But, you know, I doubt if I could use a Tesla charging station for that, and Teslas can't use the Ford ones they're trying to build. So you've got these conflicting technologies, and it's quite confusing as a consumer.
So Tesla Model S, a bit more expensive, I'd highly recommend. Has got almost a 400-mile range, the new ones, and there's chargers all over the UK, and we're building new ones. So they are incredible. If you're looking to get a new car and you could have, you know, you've got the option to buy one of them, I'd seriously look at it. Particularly, there's benefit in kind rates now. The government's subsidising, you know, tax efficiencies. Also, the Tesla Model 3 is a much more cost-effective car, and if you get a finance deal and you take into account the savings you get on a monthly basis compared to diesel or petrol, which is substantial, the costs on a monthly basis should cost no more than, and in many cases less than, a petrol or a diesel today. And the vehicles are just incredible. So I'd highly recommend, if you haven't had the chance, to go into a Tesla and have a drive, have a test, because they are just incredible vehicles. Much more incredible than.
Yeah, and I think recently the once they get up to 400 miles, the range anxiety, which is what's held me back before, that goes away. Nobody should be driving more than 400 miles without a brake. So it sort of makes it more viable.
You must have a very good bladder, Chris, if you can do 400 miles without a brake. That's what I can.
As you know, David, I'm well versed with that Berkshire to Cornwall drive.
Right.
Well, we're going to have some electric forecourts on the way, so that will help too.
One last quick question for Toddington before we leave it for today. Anyone got one last quickie for Toddington? Rob.
Thanks, David. Hi, Toddington. Rob Alloway from DevComs. Obviously, we're working in the context of the Climate Change Act. On a practical level, is government policy helpful or hindrance in terms of what you're doing?
I think it's extremely helpful. You know, one thing that Theresa May did before she left was she just basically changed it. She modified the law from, because it used to be quite woolly. It was that we've got to reduce emissions by a certain percentage, by a certain date, based on 1990 levels, based on this, based on that. And no one really knew what it meant. It was just too difficult to get your head around it. Whereas now it's very clear. It's well, they call it net zero. I guess that's the only ambiguity, but basically that means zero within 30 years. And every other law emanates from that. So the reason that the third runway was was pulled was because they hadn't considered that legislation, and you can sort of see the teeth are really starting to bite. So from my perspective, it's extremely helpful. What I hope the government doesn't do is meddle lots, because that's actually what makes it look so difficult. You spend all this time and effort making a business work, getting your head around it, getting amazing people to really, conquer new business models and just getting it done and making it work. And then the government just turns around and changes something, and you're like, how do I deal with that? So net zero, I think it's time to look at it as an enormous opportunity, probably the biggest opportunity of our lifetime, certainly my business career, because it's within the next 30 years, where the transformation is absolutely evident. And actually the really big companies are not very well suited to doing that. They can buy companies, but they're very hard to innovate. So I would say, if there are people out there looking to, within you guys as well, make the mark and rise to an opportunity, that, the opportunity to now deliver net zero, which in a majority of circumstances now can be done, at a lower cost than a more fossil fuel or a more emitting alternative. It's just absolutely enormous. And, we are grabbing that with both hands, huge enthusiasm, and doing our very best to make it happen. Because when 30 years or whatever it is comes, and we're asked the question that, when the world was, really on its tipping point of no return, which is where we are, unfortunately, and also species, what's going to happen to the other 40% of the world's wildlife. When we were in that driving seat, and we had the opportunity, what did we do about it? And I want to be able to say we did everything, and we turned it around. And
what a great way to finish. Toddington, thank you so much for the time you've given us today. I think you've inspired not only a group of people to grow their businesses in the same way as you have, but inspired us all to do our bit for the planet. And it's possible, right? It's absolutely possible to get to zero carbon. We can do it. So thanks everyone for joining us today. I hope you'll come back, Toddington, in a year's time and tell us what you've done. That would be fantastic. Look forward to seeing everyone back here in 2 weeks' time. So 2 weeks' time, we'll do another Business Owners Forum. I hope you've enjoyed it today. Have a fabulous weekend and see you all soon. Thank you again, Toddington.
Super. Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Nice to be in touch.